Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. On September 25th, 2020, an ordinary man, exhausted after a long day of work, opened the door to a small tailoring shop in a quiet Tunisian town. He expected to find his young daughter sewing with her usual focus, smiling and dreaming about her future. But what waited behind that door wasn't a dream. It was a living nightmare. He found his daughter's body lying on the floor, covered in blood, her body twisted in a final defensive position. The man let out a broken scream before losing consciousness. Neighbors rushed to help, and within seconds, the whole world turned upside down. But what's the mystery surrounding this crime like a thick fog? How could it happen in a shop open to a public street, in broad daylight, with people passing by every hour, yet no one heard a clear scream or saw a suspicious shadow? Blood stretched from the sewing machine across the floor, as if the victim had tried to escape or fight back. But there were no signs of a violent struggle, no broken door, no open window. The killer came and left like a ghost, without leaving any clear trace, except for a long strand of hair clutched in the victim's hand. A mysterious clue that would open the door to buried secrets. What was the motive? A random robbery? Or a carefully planned act of personal revenge? And how did the victim, who was just days away from her wedding, end up dead in the very place she loved and protected like her own home? Before we begin our story, don't forget to like and share this episode so it can reach as many people as possible. And stay tuned every Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday for a new episode. Without further delay, let's dive deep into the heart of our story. Let's go back to the year 1996, in Hafous, Tunisia, where Haifa Dhiflaoui was born, the only daughter of her father Haifa Dhiflaoui and her mother. Hedi worked in a small factory, and her mother encouraged her to learn sewing from a young age. Haifa began to love sewing at the age of 10, when she used to sit beside her grandmother and watch her tailor dresses. By 2008, when Haifa turned 12, she was already sewing small gifts for her school friends, little doll dresses. In 2014, at the age of 18, she graduated from high school with excellent grades and enrolled in a vocational institute for tailoring and dressmaking in Kairouan. She studied and worked at the same time for a local seamstress, earning a bit of money to help her father. Hedi used to tell her, "My daughter, life isn't easy, but you're strong, you'll make it." That same year, Haifa met Sama, who was 9 years older, married, and the mother of 2 young daughters. Sama was a neighbor who lived a bit farther away, but their friendship began at the institute during sewing classes. Sama used to talk to Haifa about her life, saying, "Marriage is hard, Haifa, but children are the real happiness." Haifa would reply, "I still dream of marriage, but work comes first." Their relationship was innocent at first. Sama would visit Haifa at her home, and Haifa would go to hers to help with the children. By 2018, Haifa was 22 years old and had become a skilled seamstress. She decided to open her own shop, Boutique Haifa, in Hafous. Her father, Hedi, supported her by selling a small piece of land to buy equipment, a modern sewing machine, fine fabrics, and simple wooden shelves. The grand opening was on July 15, 2018, and all the neighbors came. Haifa laughed and said, "This is my dream. I want every woman to feel like a princess." The shop quickly became a success. Haifa made wedding dresses at affordable prices and treated her customers with warmth. She listened carefully to their requests and customized each design. In the first month, she earned more than 500 Tunisian dinars, about $190, enough to buy a new television for her family. By the second month, she already had regular customers, and Sama was among the first. Sama would visit every week, spending hours chatting and helping Haifa organize the shop. Haifa said she saw Sama as an older sister, and Sama told her, "You'll make me proud one day." Their bond grew stronger. Haifa sometimes looked after Sama's son when she was late, and Sama gave Haifa advice about marriage before she got engaged. In 2019, Haifa turned 23, and life got sweeter. She became engaged to Ahmed, a young man from Hafuz who worked for a transport company, a good, respectable man from a family known for its morals. The engagement was on May 10, 2019, a small party at the family home. Haifa wore a light blue dress, a simple gold engagement ring, and a delicate chain, a gift from Ahmed. They started saving money for the wedding. Haifa worked harder at the shop. Ahmed added from his salary, and Sama was part of the plan, helping Haifa pick the fabric for the wedding dress. Sama told her, "You'll be the most beautiful bride, Haifa." And Haifa replied, "And you'll be the social one of the wedding." But beneath the surface, Sama was suffering. Her husband didn't understand her, the children drained her energy, and she'd started a secret relationship with another man. Haifa knew nothing. Their trust was complete. Haifa told Sama every secret, from shop problems to her dreams with Ahmed. In 2020, Haifa turned 24, and the wedding was scheduled for the end of the year, December 2020. She was working like crazy, sewing 12 hours a day, saving money in a small metal box beside the sewing machine. Inside were some cash, the engagement ring, and the gold chain she always wore. Her younger sister, Miriam, visited every day and would say, "Be careful, Haifa. The world is full of envy." But Haifa would laugh and say, "I have Sama, Ahmed, and my father. Nobody will hurt me." In early September 2020, Sama discovered she was pregnant by her lover, an unwanted pregnancy, and she was afraid her husband would find out and kill her. Sama went to Haifa at the shop after she finished with customers and told her everything through tears. "Haifa, I'm pregnant, not by my husband. Help me. I need money to have an abortion before he finds out." Haifa was shocked, stood silent for a few seconds, and said, "Sama, are you crazy? That's haram. I can't help you with that. Go to a doctor or tell your husband the truth." Sama asked for 500 dinars, about $190. Enough for the procedure, but Haifa refused. "I'm strapped. I have the wedding. Every penny is counted. And besides, it's wrong." Sama left angry, her heart full of resentment. "You'll refuse to help me after everything I did for you," she thought to herself. And from there, the devilish plan began. Sama, now 33, married with 2 daughters aged 5 and 7, knew everything about Haifa, where she kept the money box, her customers' schedules, even her phone passcode. On September 11, 2020, Sama decided she would steal from Haifa. But not only that, she would finish her so there'd be no witnesses. She sat at home thinking through the steps. The next day she bought a new black niqab to hide her face and a sharp iron bar 30 centimeters long from a nearby junk shop, hiding it in a small bag. Sama began the actual stalking. She put on the niqab and sat in front of the mosque opposite the shop from morning until sunset. She noted the times when Haifa preferred to be alone. Every night she thought and told herself, "If Haifa had helped me, none of this would have happened, but she refused. Now she will pay the price." The day of the crime, September 20th, 2020, started out like any other morning. Haifa woke up at 7 a.m., had tea with her mother, and told her sister Miriam, "Today I'll finish the bride's dress. It's going to be a masterpiece. She went to her shop at 8 a.m., opened up, arranged the fabrics, and welcomed her customers. Sama was watching from a distance. By 6 p.m., the customers had left, the assistants had gone home. Haifa was alone, sewing her last order of the day. At 6:20 p.m., Sama came running, her abaya torn, her face covered with a niqab, screaming, "Haifa, lock the door! My husband found out about the pregnancy. He's chasing me. He'll kill me." Haifa immediately opened the door, pulled Sama inside, shut it, and said, "Calm down, Sama. I'm here. Tell me what happened." Sama, who had the iron rod hidden in her abaya pocket, said, "My abaya got torn while I was running. Please stitch it quickly. I'm scared." Haifa, suspecting nothing, sat at the sewing machine, turned it on, and began stitching the fabric. Sama stood behind her, hand gripping the iron rod, and suddenly struck her from behind on the head. A strong blow, blood poured down. Haifa screamed, "What are you doing, Sama?" But Sama didn't stop. She struck again and again, blood splattering on the sewing machine, on the floor, on the money box. Haifa tried to defend herself, grabbing Sama's hair, pulling out a strand that remained clutched in her hand. But Sama pushed her down, then began striking her face and body violently, as if trying to erase her completely. Haifa crawled, struggling to escape, but Sama grabbed her by the neck and strangled her with her bare hands until she stopped breathing. By 6:30 p.m., the murder was over. It had taken just a few minutes. Shaking but determined, Sama opened the box, took the cash, the phone, the ring, and the necklace. She locked the door behind her and left. She went straight to the hospital, had an abortion, and told the doctor she had fallen down. When Haifa didn't return home and got late, her mother grew worried but thought maybe she had just stayed longer at work. At 8 p.m., Hedi went to the shop. He found the door locked, the lights still on. He knocked. No answer. He opened the door with his key and saw the scene. His daughter covered in blood, the sewing machine soaked in red, the metal box empty. He screamed and fainted from shock. Neighbors called the police. The police arrived at 8:30 p.m. They sealed off the area and found blood traces extending from the sewing machine across the floor. There were many fingerprints, but it was a busy shop. The forensic team took the body, and at first glance they noted sharp injuries, skull fractures, and manual strangulation. On September 22nd, the investigation began. They questioned Ahmed, the fiancé. He was at work, and surveillance cameras confirmed his story. They questioned the workers. No suspicions. They questioned the neighbors. They said they heard a faint scream, but thought it was just a customer. 2 days later, the forensic report concluded. The cause of death was strangulation following blunt trauma. And in Haifa's hand, a strand of long hair belonging to a woman. The family refused to believe Sama could be involved in such a crime, but the police had a different view. On September 24th, Sama was summoned for questioning. At first she denied everything, speaking evasively, saying Haifa was like my sister, but her nervousness was obvious, and her fingerprints were everywhere. When the police told her this, she replied, "I visit the shop every day. Of course my prints will be there." The next day, a DNA test was done on the strand of hair found in Haifa's hand, and it matched Sama. At that point, Sama broke down and confessed to everything. The affair, the pregnancy, how Haifa refused to help her, and finally, the murder and theft. She said, "I was scared. The money was my only way out." She had burned the phone and the abaya, but forgot about the strand of hair left in Haifa's hand. The investigation continued for weeks. Sama was arrested, and public outrage erupted. Protests broke out in Hafuz, demanding justice for Haifa. The detectives, led by the judicial police team in Kairouan, gathered all evidence: fingerprints, DNA, confessions. When police questioned Sama's husband, he said he had no idea about her affair or pregnancy, but admitted he had suspicions. On October 20th, Sama was referred to the prosecution on charges of premeditated murder and theft. Haifa's father Hedi and sister Mariam demanded the death penalty. In November 2020, prosecutors heard Sama again. She claimed financial pressure drove her to it, but investigators said the plan was deliberate. 4 days of stalking, weapon prepared in advance. By July 2021, the investigation was complete. A 200-page report with photos, DNA results, and her confession. In August 2021, the first trial began at the Court of Appeals in Kairouan. Public opinion in Tunisia was divided. Some demanded execution, others blamed poverty. But one crime expert stated the theft was just a cover. The real motive was personal. In January 2023, the final verdict was issued: death by hanging, plus a fine of 10,000 dinars in compensation to the family. It was the first death sentence for a woman-on-woman murder in years, despite Tunisia having suspended executions since 1991. Sama remains in prison. The sentence is symbolic, serving as life imprisonment since the death penalty in Tunisia is not carried out. This story, everyone, isn't just a crime. It's a lesson about blind trust, about envy that hides behind a smile, and about poverty that can turn a friend into an enemy. Haifa Dhiflaoui, who once dreamed of building a fashion empire, became the victim of someone she trusted most: Sama, who betrayed that trust. And the question remains: if Haifa had helped Sama, would this still have happened? Or does evil in the heart never disappear, not even with money? I tell this story so we can learn to think before we open our hearts, and to realize that crimes like this aren't far away. They happen in everyday life. And that's the end of today's episode. If it's your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new stories. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.